Good morning. I'd like to talk to you this morning about the future of cannabis-infused beverages. At Hill Street, we believe that the single greatest opportunity for cannabis consumption in the consumer marketplace is actually beverages. And I'll give you a lot of hopefully good data as to why we think this is the most significant opportunity facing the industry. Our strategy as a company was to first pursue non-alcoholic wine and beer. These are adult format beverages that are very familiar to consumers and follow a format where we know the regulator will never allow cannabis and alcohol to coexist in the same brands, in the same product. So if you're going to make cannabis-infused wine or cannabis-infused beer, it has to first be alcohol-free. So what we did is we set about creating a portfolio of brands that would be delicious, great-tasting, award-winning alcohol-free brands with the ability to understand how consumers respond, how the retailers respond, what the retail sell-through rates are across each beverage in the portfolio, and then to be able to take those beverages and add cannabis to them and be able to project then what the cannabis beverage marketplace would respond to once they became legal and available. So as we've worked through the construction of the business, we've been focusing on getting distribution for those alcohol-free brands and establishing our reputation as a producer of award-winning, great-tasting products in this category. And we're now preparing to launch the cannabis-infused products. Our share price is actually over the last 6 months been relatively unaffected by the downturn that has fallen almost every cannabis stock. So we have some fairly good days of trading through the course of the last number of months, and we've been relatively stable, comparatively speaking, to the rest of the index. So we think that what we provide to any investor is an opportunity to get access to the beverage marketplace in a fully legal environment, which is the Canadian marketplace. It's really the incubator for the world for beverage products. It's used by billion-dollar beverage companies to test market how beverages will launch, and then to be able to scale those products into the international marketplace as those markets become legal and we're able to open up and access them. So we believe cannabis is actually a once-in-a-lifetime event. The legalization of cannabis is a once-in-a-lifetime event. There's no real other moment in history where something that's got such broad-reaching implications for consumer consumption that has actually has happened. There'll be over 50,000 new products with cannabis infusion coming into the marketplace, and we think beverages, and especially adult format beverages, are probably going to be the biggest single category in the entire market. The reason why we believe that is because recreation right now is the #1 driver of cannabis consumption. When you look at the actual behavior, there's a lot of talk about cannabis as a therapy or a medicine, but that's not how consumers are using it. And when you examine those occasions when consumers are consuming cannabis, those occasions really mirror beverage alcohol occasions. And so those are the same occasions when somebody would normally consume an alcoholic beverage. People are switching that intoxicating consumption or supplementing it with cannabis. And when you actually look at the socially acceptable nature of intoxicants, beverage alcohol is really the only intoxicant that's currently socially acceptable. Smoking and vaping are not socially acceptable. It's something you have to do in the back alley or 9 meters from the entrance of the place you're hanging out at. But you can open up a bottle of wine, you can have a nice cold beer and sit around the dinner table and enjoy that intoxicant. And so when we actually look at how consumers are responding and what they would be interested in doing, what you'll see is about 1/3 of the beverage industry is actually addressable to cannabis-infused beverages. You've got, right now, with the products not even being legal, 25 to 30% of all beer, wine, and spirits consumers are interested in finding an alternative, in switching that consumption to a cannabis-infused beverage. If you extrapolate that to the global beverage alcohol marketplace, you're looking at about a $300 billion global opportunity to consume 30% of the beverage alcohol industry with cannabis-infused beverages. One of the main drivers for this opportunity is that cannabis beverages are actually a healthier and safer alternative to alcohol. Alcohol is probably the single greatest social harm when measuring the medicinal costs of alcohol consumption in society, and health is the number 2 concern for all consumers in the marketplace. So when we look at the opportunity to provide a product that's got lower calorie, it's got less toxicity, it's got easier consumption, no hangover, those kinds of things. We see huge benefits in the product category for us to be able to address. And so that kind of lends itself to the adult format beverage being wine, beer, or cocktails being really the biggest opportunity for consumer adoption leading into the market, and one that we believe addresses, in Canada and the US alone, a $250 billion business opportunity. One of the big opportunities that we have as a company is actually the onslaught of every major beverage alcohol company. All of the big companies are literally pouring hundreds of millions to billions of dollars into this category. So they will actually create the awareness and the trust amongst consumers that these products are safe, they're readily available, there's places in retail for them, and so just like what we've done in the alcohol-free sector, competing against all the same companies, we've been able to expand our distribution from about 900 to about 8,000 stores in Canada in the last 20 months. We're now available in about 45% of all grocery and drugstores in Canada, and that's competing with the big players, the AB InBevs, the Molsons. And the reason why they can't compete with us in that space, or they're vulnerable to competition, is because as a craft producer, we're focused on quality and taste and giving consumers a handcrafted, better tasting alternative than the mass-produced products that exist in this particular category. The alcohol-free brands that we're producing are another indication of just how excited consumers are and how interested they are in finding an alternative to alcohol that isn't as intoxicating and as harmful to their health. When you look at these numbers and you see that there's about 135 million North Americans on a prescription drug regimen that is contraindicated to the consumption of alcohol, you're looking at 40% of the population of adults that have been instructed by their doctors not to consume alcohol. Almost none of those medications, and it's a very rare instance where you see a medication that is contraindicated to the consumption of cannabis. And in fact, in most cases, cannabis makes medicines work more efficiently and more effectively. So there's not the reticence amongst the medical community to pair prescription drugs and these kinds of beverages. So when you look at the regulatory framework, this framework is actually ideal for us. We've licensed a patented technology that allows us to turn cannabis into an odorless and tasteless benign ingredient in all of our beverages without any impact on the taste of the products. And the legal dosing regimen actually fits perfectly to give consumers, on average, a one-to-one intoxicating experience. So the amount of cannabis in a beer or a glass of wine gets you as intoxicated as the amount of alcohol would. It's just a shorter window of time. It's on average about a 90-minute to 2-hour intoxication duration with an average 5-minute onset time for the intoxicating effect. So you actually feel the effect of the beverage as you're consuming it. As a company, we've had a really strong run over the last 20 months or so since we went public. It's actually only been about 14 months since we went public. So we've found the technology platform that has zero impact on the taste and flavor of the products. We've set up national distribution. We've got an agreement with an organization that has about 40 salespeople in the market. We've had meetings with every major provincial regulator to get our products listed and prepared, accepted for sale in almost every region in the country. And we announced the acquisition of a world-class facility, a company called One Leaf Cannabis, which is where our production and cultivation will happen. So we actually have a fully vertically integrated offering with cultivation, extraction, processing, ultimately the conversion of oil into the powder and the production and bottling of our beverages all in the one facility based in Regina, Saskatchewan. It's located about 1.5 miles away from a global transportation hub that has a direct rail link to every major center in North America. Our production facility is established with all the main components. We've purchased the bottling and canning lines. We're now beginning construction on the actual building to install the bottling and canning lines into the facility, and ready to hit the retail marketplace in time for next summer when the beverage selling season happens. And that's our story. Please come and visit us at booth 302. We're just on the other side of the aisle, just next door to this room. So come over and have a sample.